You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the February 11th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Michigan City Board of Zoning and Appeals. The date is Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. The time is 6:05 p.m. And can we start out with the pledge, please? The pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can we get into the roll call, please?
Of course. Mr. Jackson,
Here.
Mr. Klinder,
Here.
Ms. Stransky,
Here.
Ms. Vance,
Here.
and Mr. Gross.
Here.
Attorney Steve Hill.
Present.
All present and you have quorum.
Very good. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes from January of 1425.
I will request that we table January's minutes until the board all have the opportunity to review them.
Very good. Board members, is there a motion?
I make a motion that we table the minutes from January.
And is there a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross, seconded by Ms. Stransky. The roll call, please.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Minutes tabled.
Next on the agenda, we have, I believe it's just one petition for tonight.
Yes.
One petition. Can you call that petition up for us?
Sure. We have petition B-107-24 through 3515 Franklin Street, Building A. This petition is brought to us by Jacqueline Scarborough, and she is interested in a developmental standards variance as well as a special exemption use variance. Would you guys come up and please talk about what it is that you're proposing? You look
How you
nice.
doing? So just for the record, I need you to state your name and your address, please.
Okay. I am Jacqueline Scarborough, and the address is 3515 Franklin Street.
And what brings you in tonight? What are you doing?
Well, I am wanting to switch the variances from a special exemption to special exemption use and developmental standards.
So tell us a little bit about your project and why you think we should consider these variances.
Okay. So a little bit about me is that I have a visual arts in a bachelor's degree. Oh my gosh, sorry.
You're all right.
I don't
You're all
speak
right.
in front of people that much. I'm usually tattooing in the back room. I have a bachelor's degree in visual arts from Holy Cross College of Notre Dame. During that time, I did teach New Prairie High School for a little bit as an art teacher. After that, I became a tattoo artist, so I've been tattooing for about 4 years. This has allowed me to become a member of the local community and to give back. During that time, I have given back in multiple ways. I did sponsorships, Toys for Tots, and a charity event to support a local business that went through a fire. I like to be a part of this community. I like to grow the art district and become another safe job opportunity for the artistic youth of Michigan City. I would also, from my understanding, be one of the first few female tattoo shops. I like to strive to be an active member of this community, partnering with schools and local nonprofit to give back as I'm able. With those things I have done in the past with Toys for Tots and charity events, I did all those working underneath someone, and now I want to be able to give back even more if I were to were given this opportunity to have a larger establishment. Getting into more of like the logistics of things, I have lots of parking at the shop. I have my own individual parking. No street parking. It's just 5 spots in the front of the building and then 14 spots in the back. So if I were to have at least 3 employees there and our own employees would have our clients, that would be 6 people. We would have more than enough space. Now we do share a building with the Wanna Pizza people, but it is a pick up and go kind of restaurant. So there's not as much traffic flow between the 2 of us then. The building would not need any alterations. It already has 3 booths that are pre-built before I ever walked in there. There are 2 sinks that are outside of the bathroom as well, which that's what health department usually looks for. Yeah, that's everything.
So I have a question just to clear this up before we move into this, okay? Are you talking about you're going to be in the front building, that building, or is it in the little back building that's behind it?
I'm in the front building connected to Wanna Pizza.
Yeah. That's the one I thought. The back.
The back building's like a
They drive little roll cars. Yeah.
little race car stuff. Yeah.
Okay,
They used to think it used to be a trophy shop right there or something.
The part that I'm going to be at was a hair salon.
Was it a
this
hair
past
salon?
summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay,
Which is why there's booths in there.
Yeah.
all right. And can we move on?
Mhm.
Okay,
You can either sit right there or stay there until I finish reading. But it'll be long, so.
You might want to have a seat.
So just for clarification, Mrs. Scarborough is requesting a special exemption use, which is required for her to be allowed to have a tattoo establishment. However, she also needs a developmental standards variance in order to align with the special exemption use regulations. So what we're going to do is we're going to start first with the developmental standards variance, with the understanding that she needs a special exemption use as well. Okay.
so everything you're going to read is going to be about just the developmental.
What I'm about to read right now will just be the developmental standards.
Okay,
And we will move forward with the developmental standards. Once we close that out, then we'll move forward with the special exemption use.
Okay.
So, and it's done in that order because she has to go with this one first before the other.
okay.
The Planning Department report on the petition B-107-24, 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1, petitioner Jacqueline Scarborough. There was no remonstration from the water department, nor the sanitary department, nor fire. This property is located in R1B, which is a single family residential district. Required. Section 7.02 of our zoning ordinance provides that a tattoo establishment is eligible for approval as a special exception use, provided that the requirements of Section 14.04B are met. The requirements include as follows. The site shall not be within 100 feet of the residential district. Requirements not met unless developmental standards variance is approved. So the petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to be allowed to have a tattoo establishment within 79 feet to the east and 57 feet to the west of the residential district. The petitioner is requesting a developmental standards variance to be allowed to have a tattoo establishment. However, the tattoo establishment is located within 100 square feet of a residential district. The standards for a developmental standards variance are found in Zoning Code Section 28.11B and are set out below in italics with the department's findings. Number 1, general welfare. The approval of this variance will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. Well, the planning department states that the proposed development of a tattoo establishment under the existing B2 business commercial zoning poses no risk to public health, moral, or welfare. The petitioner aims to keep the current zoning to facilitate a smooth transition in the property's use. This change will enhance the local service diversity while respecting the character of the surrounding properties. Since the project will not involve any structural alterations and is set in a currently vacant unit, it is expected to be a positive contribution to the community without disrupting existing business operations. Number 2, does the use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance be affected in a substantial, will it be affected in a substantial adverse manner? The proposed developmental standards, the proposed special exemption use for a new business will not be negatively impacted. The enjoyment or the use of the neighboring properties, nor will it significantly diminish their property's value. By allowing this thriving business to occupy previously vacant property, it is expected to enhance the area's aesthetic and contribute positively to the overall community and business values. Additionally, since the site is already zoned B2 business commercial, this expansion aligns with the existing ordinance, further supporting the case for approval. The strict application of terms of the zoning ordinance will constitute an unnecessary hardship if applied to the property for which the variance is sought. The strict application of the zoning ordinance that creates unnecessary hardship regarding the establishment of the tattoo business pertains to the requirements that such a business must be located with at least 100 feet away from a residential district. In this case, the proposed tattoo establishment is positioned just 79 feet to the east and 57 feet to the west of the nearest residential area. The close proximity to the residential district meets that underlying normal circumstances, and the petitioner will be unable to open a tattoo business without obtaining this variance. The hardship arise because the ordinance strict application will prevent the use of the property for a commercial enterprise that the petitioner is seeking to establish, even though the property has features like a full-service parking lot and additional buffer. that could mitigate any potential impacts on the nearby resident, which includes a sound structured building that separates the petitioner from the rear residential districts. The parcel that the property sits on holds two separate sections. These two separate sections are one, a restaurant, pizza restaurant, and two, a previously hair salon. The hair salon is located further back from the property line, giving the structure more of a buffer for the tattoo establishment. In summary, the strict application enforcement of the 100 feet distance requirement effectively prevents the petitioner from using the property as intended, which constitute an unnecessary hardship given the specific characteristics and circumstances of the site. We will now go into the planning department's recommendation. The department recommends approval of the requested developmental standards variance on docket number B-107-24. This recommendation is based on a justification provided by the petitioner demonstrating unique property circumstances and alignment with local zoning objectives. Approval would allow the petitioner to proceed with their plans while ensuring compliance with all necessary conditions and regulations for the benefit of the community. Specific conditions and consideration for the approval will be outlined in a formal document associated with this variance. The conditions are: approval should be contingent upon the approval of a special exemption for the petition B-107-24 and compliance with section 14.04B, subjected to the following conditions: distance from a residential district. This site must not be located within 100 feet of any residential districts. A developmental standards variance is required as this condition is not currently met. Distance from a adult regulated use. The site must not be within 1,000 feet of any adult regulated use. The requirement is met, allowing the establishment to proceed. Operation hours. The establishment shall not operate past 10 p.m. The petitioner has confirmed compliance with the condition if the variance is approved. The planning department recommends that the petitioner's operation be restricted to no later than 10 p.m. as condition of approval. So ends my report, but just for further clarification, we're reading to approve for a developmental standards variance to allow her to have a tattoo establishment within 100 feet of the residential districts. Further clarification, if you guys looked at your documentation, there is an entire building separating the structure from the rear residential neighborhood. But our zoning ordinance does not take that into consideration. So I would like you guys to consider that as well, because if we look at that consideration, she's not within 100 feet. She is over 100 feet from the rear's residential district because the building is separated by an entire another business. Secondly, I would also like you to all to consider that if you look at the front building, the pizza restaurant sits closer to the front and her structure sits farther to the back. Now, if our zoning ordinance took into consideration the effects of building structure and development, then this wouldn't have been an issue. However, if you measure from her structure to the nearest residential district, she is over 100 feet away from a residential district. And those were the things that we took into consideration when we decided to recommend approval for the developmental standards variance. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Hale, would you like to go into your report on that part?
Yes, sir. I have an attorney report for both the special exception use and the development standards variance. So my report for petition B-107-24 notes that the petitioner is Jacqueline Scarborough. The property owner is DNC Executive Properties, LLC, and David Lewis. And the request is for a special exception use and for a development standards variance. I would note that my attorney report has a typographical error under request. It is a development standards variance, and that is part of the explanation that follows. The property involved is 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1, Michigan City. I would note, first of all, that I've had a chance to look at the notice documentation supplied, and it is sufficient. You are free to go ahead and hear this matter. Next, I would like to point out that the property is a building at 3515 that is attached to the Wana Pizza building. So it's one building, but this two-story property is referred to as Building A1 because it is separated in terms of its use. So any approval of the two requested remedies would only be for this Building A1, the two-story structure, previously a hairstyling salon. Now, I would note that the petitioner is requesting us for permission to operate as a tattoo establishment in a B2 general commercial district. And in section 702, as Dr. Martin indicated, and table 7.2, a tattoo establishment is permitted only if it is granted as a special exception use. You're familiar with these. Our zoning ordinance provides for approved uses, that is permitted, and unpermitted, but it also has a third category, special exception use, and this is one of those. However, the petitioner also requires a development standards variance because the zoning ordinance, section 14.04, subsection B, allows a tattoo establishment only if it is not within 100 feet of a residential district, and there is a residential district on both the east and west sides of this property within 100 feet. So that's what brings us to this. I think that Dr. Martin is absolutely correct. We need to consider this in two different motions and two different considerations, because the standards that you are to consider in approving a special exception use are different than the standards in considering a development standards variance. Dr. Martin correctly set forth the standards that you are to consider for the first item to be brought up, which is the development standards variance, that is allowing a tattoo establishment, if the special exception use is granted, to be located within 100 feet of a residential district on the east and the west sides. You're free to consider this matter and to approve it with conditions that must be included within the motion, or to deny it, or to table it until a future meeting. I would note, finally, that there are conditions attached to both of these in Dr. Martin's presentation to you and the staff recommendation. Those conditions, specifically as to the development standards variance, are that she indicated must include approval of a special exception use, and that the hours shall not exceed 10 p.m. Those should be part of any motion that would consider approval. There are other conditions for approval of the special exception use that Dr. Martin will relay to you later. I would also note, and I think that this is pertinent, that this petition was submitted earlier. You received a copy of this, I believe, at our last meeting. If you remember, it was written in pencil, the application. It was difficult, if not impossible, in parts to decipher, and this matter was set over. So the petitioner, to her credit, submitted additional documentation. So I have included in my report a long list of documents supplied by the petitioner, and they run to some 28 or 29 separate documents. I did this because this is all part of the record, but all of the important documentation was then submitted in typewritten form. It's clearly visible, and it is much more readable and understandable in this new format. And so you can look at all of the documents that I state in my report are part of the record to understand that the petitioner has supplied all of this additional material. And that completes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Board members, comments, questions? I'd like to ask a question of Sylvia, if I could. Okay, you mentioned that it's B2 zoning, but on the first page of your report, upper right area under zoning ordinance requirements, it says the property is zoned R1B. I assume that's just a typo.
It says zoning requirements. The requirements is that her structure cannot be located within 100 feet of a residential district. So that was put there, I believe, but it may be a typo.
Okay.
But that's the district that her structure is across from.
Right,
Yeah.
but it is B2.
It's B2.
Okay.
But if you peruse down in my petition when we start talking about it, it does.
It states that, yes.
It states that.
Okay, thank you.
But it was important for me to try to find a way to clarify the reasoning for the variance. Doing something different with the little report, trying to.
Any other questions, comments?
No, this is 2 levels. I see there are 3 booths on the upper floor.
Yes.
Is that actually where you do the tattoos?
In the booths, yeah, we could do them inside the booths. I'm down to.
Will you be doing any on the main floor? I guess I'm wondering about whether it's accessible.
Yes. Yep.
It
We will be
is, so
doing
you can
on the
get
main floor
wheelchairs
as
and
well.
people in there, and it's not a problem. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, and I'll clarify that a little more since, we both had to do the inspection. The structure is actually set perfectly for it to shift right into a tattoo booth because it separates the individuals. So if I'm getting a tattoo, I won't know that you're getting a tattoo, and they are completely designated for her employees, more so because, of course, it was a hair salon, which does the same thing. So the structure is just, she found a prime property for what she wants to do, to be quite honest.
Board members, any other comments? Any questions? All right, let's move into public comment.
Hello, Board. Scott Malintour in Kenwood Place. I am familiar with this property. It does sound like a good fit. It seems like both these variances relate to the type of business she wants to run, being a tattoo shop, which kind of seems like double jeopardy. It seems like, well, you need an exemption to have a tattoo shop, and then you need an exemption to have this tattoo shop because it's technically too close to a residential district. The bias against tattoo shops seems to be a hangover from the past. This is probably antiquated law, and probably shouldn't be, it should probably be stricken from our code, frankly, because if she could operate a hair business here without having to come before this board, I think she should be able to operate a tattoo business personally. Kind of a side matter. It sounds like, one, I think we want to approve this. This is the vacant store. It is a great location. That's a commercial strip. It has had body work done there before, hairstyling and so forth. It is ideally situated. We have a Michigan City resident who wants to invest her time and money. I don't know if this is a lease or a purchase, and either way, it doesn't matter. She's willing to invest her capital and time and start her own business, and I think we all support that. You did say, Dr. Martin, you did say one thing about a adult regulated business within 1,000 feet. I don't know what those are, but I would point out there's a liquor store within 1,000 feet of that location, if not two, because CVS also sells alcohol. I don't think that should be an impediment. I think the benefits outweigh that. It's not, and that doesn't even count. So what is an adult business? Oh, we don't have any of those. I don't think they get the exemption. They're within 100 feet.
Scott, be careful because you're making Kathy down there blush.
Well, she's got some unique features she likes to talk about. And last but not least, so we have a local lady willing to, invest her own time and capital, and it's also going to provide a number of jobs. So this is, I see nothing but positives here, and I would encourage you to grant both variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Board members, any discussion amongst the board about, oh, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Any more public comment? We actually have public, so I'm going to ask. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment. Public comment's now closed. Now we're back to the board. Board members, is there any more discussion, or would someone like to make a motion one way or the other? And then if I may remind you, when you make the motion, say your name, but please make sure that you add in the motion that this is for the A1 part of the building in the motion. Okay?
I would like to make a motion that we approve application B-107-24 for the development standard variance to include not operating past 10 p.m.
Mr. Gross, when you say to include, you mean to add that as a condition of your approval, of the approval?
Yes, as a condition, right.
Is there a second?
I second.
So I have
Deborah Vance, I second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross, seconded by Ms. Vance. Ms. Martin, would you like to call the roll?
I sure will. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klender,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Van,
Yes.
Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Okay,
Congratulations.
that's one down, one to go.
When we get her.
This one we did it.
All right. Miss Burton, can you tell us about our next one?
Well, as you all know, this is for petition B-107-24, 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1. Petition brought forth by Ms. Jacqueline Scarborough. She already came up and kind of gave a description of the project, so I want force her to endure the public speaking again. So I'll just move forward with my report. Is that okay?
Please.
All right. Oh, and just for verification, Attorney Steve Hale has already read both of his reports, so this is the only report that will be read right now. Report on the petition for B-107-24, 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1, brought to us by Jacqueline Scarborough. The water department had no remonstration, nor sanitary, nor fire. The planning department, I see what you mean, Mr. Girls. Sorry. The petitioner is requesting a special exemption use to change the existing use of 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1, from a beauty shop to a tattoo establishment. The zoning ordinance requires the property is zoned as B2, General Commercial District. Required. Zoning ordinance requires in 07.02, use and development of land and buildings shall only be specified use which does not include a tattoo establishment unless otherwise provided in this ordinance by obtaining a special exception approval. The petitioner must meet with all applicable standards cited in Article 24, Special Exception Review. Requirements and procedures subjected to the requirements set out in Section 14.04B. Department's comments. The current use of the property is for retail sale. However, the petitioner intends to open a tattoo studio. This is permissible only if the petitioner is granted a special exemption use, which is mandated by our zoning ordinance in Section 07.02. The petitioner must follow the necessary procedures to obtain the exception to legally operate as a tattoo studio on this property. The standards for a special exemption use are found in Zoning Code Section 24.04B and are set out below in italics with the department's proposed findings. Number 1, general welfare. The proposed will not be injurious to the public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. The proposed development of a tattoo business under the existing B2 business commercial zoning poses no risk to public health, morals, or general welfare. The petitioner aims to keep the current zoning to facilitate a smooth transition in property use. This change will enhance the local service, diversity, while respecting the character of the surrounding properties. Since the project will not involve any structural alterations and is set in a currently vacant lot, it is expected to be a positive contribution to the community without disturbing existing business operations. The surrounding property. The special exemption use will not be injurious to the use, enjoyment of other properties in the immediate vicinity for the proposed already permitted, nor substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood. The proposed special exemption use for the new business will not negatively impact enjoyment or use of the neighboring properties, nor will it significantly diminish their property value. By allowing this thriving business to occupy previously vacant property, it is expected to enhance the area's aesthetic and contribute positively to the overall community and business value. Additionally, since the site is already zoned for B2 business commercial, this expansion aligns with the existing ordinance, further supporting the case for approval. Hazards. The special use shall not be hazardous to adjacent properties or involves use, activities, materials, or equipment that will be detrimental to the health, safety, or welfare of the person or property through the excessive production of traffic, noise, smoke, or odor, fumes, or glares. Granting the special exception use presents a valuable opportunity that will not jeopardize the safety of adjacent properties or compromise the health and welfare of the local community. The proposed business will strictly adhere to existing zoning regulations, ensuring it remains a responsible and compliant commercial entity. Importantly, there will be no increase in noise, smoke, or fumes associated with this operation, allowing it to blend seamlessly into the current environment. This proposal is designed to maintain harmony in the area and will not contribute to any rising concerns related to traffic, noise, or other adverse effects. Number 4, public facilities and services. The use will be served adequately by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police, fire protection, drainage structures, water, sewage facilities, reuse, disposal, and schools. The proposed use of the property is well supported by essential public facilities and services such as highways, streets, police, and fire protection, drainage systems, water supply, sewage, refuse, disposals, and schools. This change will fully comply with zoning ordinance regulation, facilitating a smooth integration into the community. Notably, the new business will not add any burden to existing utilities, access roads, or drainage system compared to the current permitted use. Furthermore, ample parking is available at both the front and the rear of the property, which will help alleviate traffic congestion in the surrounding areas. Number 5, developmental requirements. The development of the property will not be it's a lot of reading. The developmental requirements. The development of the property will be consistent with the intent of the development requirements established by the ordinance for similar use. The development will be designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to be compatible with and not significantly alter the existing or intended character of the general vicinity based upon the county land development plan and ordinance. Approval of this special exemption use will not adversely impact or alter the existing patterns of development of the surrounding areas. The proposed development is thoroughly designed to comply with the established requirements for similar use under the ordinance, facilitating a smooth integration into the community. It will be carefully designed, constructed, operated, and maintained to align with existing character of the area, adhering to the county land development plan and ordinance. The approval of this special exception use will enhance and preserve the current development patterns of the surrounding neighborhoods without creating any adverse effects. This project is in strong alignment with the overreaching goal of both the county and comprehensive plan and the city zoning ordinance. The petitioner is dedicated to maintaining the existing B2 zoning, and the transition from retail sales to a tattoo establishment will occur only with the appropriate special exception use approval, as stipulated in our zoning ordinance in section 07.02. Number 6, ordinance intent. Granting the special exception use will not be contrary to the general purpose served by the ordinance and will not permanently injure other properties or use in the same zoning district and vicinity. Granting special exception use will enhance the objective of the ordinance and will not inflict any lasting harm on neighboring properties or use within the same zoning district. The special use is intended to preserve the established development patterns in the area. Since the petitioner is not proposing to change the current zoning, the initiative aligns seamlessly with the existing permitted use in the district, forecasting compatibility and strengthening support within the local community. Number 7, County Land Development Plan. The proposed use will be consistent with the character of the zoning district in which it is located and recommendation of the County Land Development Plan. The requested special exception use is fully consistent with the character and intended outline in the existing zoning ordinance and comprehensive and land development plan. The petitioner seeks to utilize the property as a tattoo establishment, which is permissible under the special exception provision in B2 districts. This proposed use will align with the other permitted use within the same zoning districts and vicinity, ensuring that it supports the overall objective of the community and its development plan. Number 8, use regulation. Where there is use-specific regulation contained in Article 14, the special exception use shall comply with all the regulations applicable to the use. Section 707.02 of the zoning ordinance stipulates that the tattoo establishments are eligible for approval as a special exception use, provided that the requirements outlined in Section 14.04B are met. The relevant requirements are as follows. Distance from a residential district. The site must not be located within 100 feet of a residential district. This requirement is currently met. Therefore, the variance to approve has been established. Distance from adult regulation. The site must not be within 1,000 feet of any adult regulated use. The requirement has been met, allowing the petitioner to satisfy this condition. Operating hours. The establishment shall not operate after 10 p.m. This requirement has been met, further supporting the approval of this establishment. In summary, while the petitioner I don't need that because she was approved. Department's recommendation. Praise them. The department recommends approval of the special exception use for petition B-107-24, contingent upon compliance with Section 114.04B and the approval of a developmental standards variance subjected to the following conditions. Distance from residential district, distance from adult regulated use, and operating hours. In conclusion, the planning department recommends approval with all conditions being met. Kind of hard reading it after the fact because, yeah.
All right. Board comments? Board questions? Anything you have that you'd like to ask the petitioner? Or any discussion? Anybody?
Good.
The only thing I could mention is it seems like a lot of folderol, all of what you're going through and what you're having to hear. But of course, you understand. I think Dr. Martin already explained to you those are the procedures that we need here in town to make sure that we run this place the way it should be, and all the those variances are met. And we thank you for your patience.
Thank
All right. Thank you.
you.
Let's try this again. Public comment. No, you had your turn.
2 bites of the apple today. Got Mellon to 200 Kenwood Place.
Who?
Just look in the paper. Dr. Martin, it's like poetry. It's fine. Nobody likes to read that crap. That stuff. Final thing about Ms. Scarborough is redoing the 28 attachments for the application shows seriousness and earnestness, and I wish her well in her future endeavor. I just wanted to bring out a larger point. I thank each and every one of you on this board for your public service and serving on this board. That said, and in respect to what Mr. Klinder just said, this kind of does seem like an example of bureaucratic red tape. Again, pretty much any other business could just lease the place and open up. These are our developmental standards and we have to follow them. These are the laws as they stand. Most of us agree though that a tattoo shop really isn't some radical business and maybe shouldn't be subject to these currently needed exemptions. Again, this is a larger argument. It's not about us. It's about bureaucratic red tape and antiquated laws. And this is the sort of thing that's driving people kind of mad in society about government. They complain about the federal government, but it's local government that affects our lives at a much more fundamental level in many ways. This meeting is an example of that wasted bureaucratic red tape. The time of all of us. The time it took Dr. Martin to prepare the report and others in the planning department, other departments that had to be talked to, that had to put their input in. Attorney Hale's time, his billable time for this. And again, just an example of bureaucratic red tape that maybe we should think about eliminating where possible. As we know, there's a big push at the federal level to eliminate such things currently. It's out there, man. So again, I want to thank you again, each for your service, for what you do. These are what our rules require. I think we should take a look at maybe streamlining some of our rules as Michigan City has a big development push ahead of it. There's a lot of development happening, but there's a big bottleneck in the planning department, in part because we have so many rules. This could be an example of where if we streamline things, it could be a win-win for everybody and a lot less wasted effort in bureaucratic red tape. Thank you.
Thank you. Public comment? Public comment? You got like a huge cheer squad out there. Public comment? Okay. Public comment is now closed. Before we get into a motion, Mr. Hale?
Yes, sir.
Is there anything that you'd like to add for this?
Yes, sir, I would. I believe that it would be very prudent if there's a motion to approve this, that you add the condition about the hours. The requirements concerning an adult use is not relevant to this because there is none. And the requirement regarding nearby, that is within 100 feet of a residential district, has already been addressed by this body and approved. So those conditions aren't necessary. But the condition about hours of operation, I think if you want that in there, and you did put it in under the development standards variance, that it should appear here even more dramatically. And so I would urge you to do that. And remember, as I always state, if you're going to approve this with a condition, you have to include the condition with your motion. And I would also ask that you adopt the findings that relate to this request, that is the special exception use that were read by Dr. Martin as part of her report. So that would be two things, the condition and the findings, as well as or as part of your approval, if that's forthcoming.
Thank you, Mr. Hale. Please.
So before we move forward, I would just like to let you know that you did an exceptional. You come up here too. You both did an exceptional job. What everybody don't know on the outside is they completely did the whole petition, mailings, and everything before meeting, and was here for the meeting previously in November. So I just think that, you know, the effort that you put into this is the same effort that I can tell you put into your business. And that is why we have multiple documents, and that is why you have multiple different petitions, because after the first petition, she didn't give any pushback. She didn't argue. She just went back and did it in pencil. But I didn't know, which is something I should have, you know, caught, but I didn't know she made copies of, you know, the pencils, and I gave it to you all. But holistically, this petition that you completed together is normally done by an attorney. It's normally done by a legal professional. And I just want to commend you for taking my recommendations, allowing me to continue you until you had all of the answers, until you understood exactly what you were doing, for bearing with me with the mailings. I think this is the first petition that I ever had that I noticed the appreciation of what I do to help assist you all. It was very gratifying. Just you coming in, you talking, and you explaining the things that you want to do. I am extremely proud of you and him for taking everything and putting it. That's why they have so many documents, because she was very, very excited, and she really wanted to open her own business. And I just think that that's amazing.
Thank you.
No problem.
Very good. Board members, is there any more discussion, or can we entertain a motion? Anybody? Yeah.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the petition B-107-24 for 3515 Franklin Street, Building A1, be approved as submitted by the Planning Department report with the conditions listed, particularly not to operate past 10 p.m.
And Mr. Klinder, your motion would include adopting the findings in Dr. Martin's report?
Yeah, that's what I meant to say.
Yes.
If I didn't, yes.
So I have a motion by Mr. Klinder. Is there a second?
I second it.
I have a second by
Deborah Vance.
Ms. Vance. Ms. Martin, the roll, please.
With pleasure. Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You.
Very good.
Yes, you did that. Next
Lord.
is the health department and fire marshal after this, so.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that was another thing. She also knew that she had to go to them to see if it was.
Mhm.
That was something that she did. Yeah.
Very good. Folks, you are welcome to stay, or if you need to leave to go celebrate, you're more than to do that. So any way you want to do it. Ms. Martin, our next part is old business. Do you have old business for us?
I will. Yes, I will turn it over to Attorney Steve Hill as he will report his findings and orders.
Thank you. I have the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals decision and findings of fact for petition number B-104-24. You should have a copy of that submitted by the office and in front of you. The petitioner was Patrick Scheid. The property owners were St. John's United Church of Christ of Michigan City, Indiana. The request was for a development standards variance regarding signage, and the property involved is 101 St. John Road, Michigan City, Indiana. You recall we had a public hearing at our last meeting on January 14th of 2025. At that time, Dr. Martin presented you with a report that included a series of findings applicable to the request for a development standards variance to allow a certain sized sign to be placed at that property location for the church. The board approved the requested development standards variance, but subject to the following conditions. The sign shall not be taller than 6 feet and not larger than 72 square feet per side. The sign shall have a brick base and landscaping around the base as set out in section 19.04 subsection 8 of the zoning ordinance. That the petitioner shall follow all of the following regulations for the development standards variance. Section 19.06, general provisions for permitted signs, including de-illumination, subsection 5, electrical changeable message sign, subparagraphs A to F, and section 19.04 of our zoning ordinance regarding permitted signs and specific sign requirements. Based upon those conditions, this body passed and approved the requested petition B-104-24 on that 14th day of January 2025. Appropriate motion would be to approve the decision and findings as presented to you in written form.
Board members, is there a motion to adopt?
I make a motion that on petition number B-104-24, we approve the decision of findings and facts as they are.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Gross, seconded by Mr. Klinder.
Klinder.
I'm gonna fix it.
Ms. Martin, for the roll, please.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Ms. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
I will correct your name. I promise.
Mr. Hale?
Yes, next, Mr. Jackson, I have the Michigan City Board of Zoning Appeals decision and findings of fact for petition B-105-24. You recall we had a public hearing on this matter on January 14th, 2025. The petitioner was Legacy Sign Group. The property owner is J&B West Roofing, LLC. The request was development standards variance for a sign at the commercial property along Highway 212 near Tryon Road, described as parcel 46-01-25-2023.000-022. You recall that the petitioner was requesting a development standards variance to allow a pole sign 30 feet tall and 145.3 square feet per side. The board considered and adopted the proposed findings submitted as part of Dr. Martin's report, and then indicated that they would approve this petition, but subject to the following. The pole sign must not exceed a maximum height of 30 feet. The sign shall not be larger than 145.3 square feet per side. The sign shall comply with Table 19.04 of our zoning ordinance for permitted signs. And finally, the sign shall comply with the requirements of Section 19.06, including the provisions regarding illumination as set out in subsections D, 5A through F. And based upon those conditions, this body approved this petition B-105-24 on January 14, 2025. Again, a similar motion as the last one to approve or adopt these finding and decision as presented to you in written form.
Board members, is there a motion to adopt?
Bud Klinder, I make a motion that we adopt the findings and facts of petition B-105-24 Legacy Signs Groups.
Is there a second?
I second it. Deborah Vance.
We have a motion by Mr. Klinder and a second by Ms. Vance. Ms. Martin?
Mr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Klinder, Mr. Klinder,
Yes.
Ms. Stransky,
Yes.
Mr. Vance,
Yes.
and Mr. Gross.
Yes.
All right.
So lastly, on our old business, we talked about having a workshop. However, because of the citywide workshops that are taking place, I want to recommend that we, as of now, well, not as of now, we do not have any petitions for March, other than, findings of facts, which we can, wait to another meeting, or we can have the meeting and then have the workshop, or we can have the workshop next month. But I would encourage us to take some time to look at the documents, utilize the month of March. What's this? February? Utilize the month of February to come up with recommendations in writing. As you know, we want, because Attorney Hill is, our attorney, he has to review documents, and reviewing documents in a workshop will not be as effective, especially since the workshop is really just giving us more of a guidance on what BZA is, the ABCs of Board of Zoning and Appeals. So on the other hand, I would like you guys to look at the existing ordinance, existing rules and procedures, or lack thereof, and send in some suggestions and recommendations by our March meeting. And at that time, Mr. Hale and I will create a draft of those those findings. And from that draft, we'll workshop it. Because as it states now, we're having a workshop and we really don't have procedures and rules that we can kind of navigate from, right? Am I correct? So it's important that we give Mr. Hale and the planning department the opportunity to draft those together with any of you guys' recommendation, and then we'll workshop from there.
Mr. Hale, our meeting in March is March 11th. If somebody wanted to submit to you, that way it gives you time to go through them and check them over before we get into the meeting. Is that what your thoughts are?
Well, we're going, Mr. Hale, we technically have to wait until April because Mr. Hale will not be back until then.
Oh, okay.
No, I will be back, and I will be back early March. I would be available for the March meeting.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, March. That is exactly what I'm saying. I must have missed. I thought you were coming back April.
No.
Okay. He doesn't in winter here.
The workshop is not to put it in its final legal form, but to discuss
Yes.
what the terms should be, as far as what they should be and what the conditions on them should be.
Yes.
So I don't think they need to be legal at that point as much as we need to hash out ideas.
No, but we need a starting ground right now, and we'll waste a lot of time trying to create the first draft, whereas we can come in with the final draft and add or take away certain things, but we don't believe that they will be approved until May, June. That's my perspective on it, more so because these procedures have to be adopted and we have to go through certain regulations so that Mr. Hale can do his processes as well as the planning department do their processes, and then council and all these other areas we have to go through to make sure that they are approved and adopted based upon a resolution.
Okay.
Which will take some time. That's why I want to give Mr. Hale ample amount of time to get all of your recommendations so that he can make an adjustment. Now, just for clarification, if you fail to send him your recommendation, we can't go back and forth if you're not going to put forth the effort to go back and forth with. I don't know if that makes sense, but please submit something before, we kind of have this conflict of interest. So I'm asking that every board member, read the procedures as they exist, review them as you wish to see them. But just remember, we cannot deviate too far from what our zoning ordinance states, what the state statute states, and that when we get together and Mr. Hale explains to you what state statute states and why we can't utilize whatever that we came up with, we need to be able to accept his recommendation as it is his job. That's what he's hired for. He's hired to give us guidance. And if we're not going to take the guidance, but that's how I want to move forward, if that's okay with everybody.
It is, but I have a question.
Yes.
I just want to make sure I'm looking at I have tons of
You do?
things. So are we supposed to look at all of this? Or
Yep.
are you wanting us to look at, I have something that says rules and procedures.
Those are the existing
And then I have
That is-
articles, the
state statute
state statute
and city ordinance.
and that is Article 28.
That is our ordinance. Yes.
Okay. So
But
those are the
also-
ones we need to
City,
look at.
state, and existing.
Okay.
That's what you got.
So, but also in that packet, you're gonna find different meeting notes.
Yes.
And minutes, and in those minutes is listed different things that we passed and changed
Right.
Yes.
as we went. So that's why those are all there.
Yes.
Okay, well, I wanted to make sure I was looking at the right thing.
You know?
And because they'll answer those questions. Why did this shift to here? So I gave you all of the documentation so that you can have all of the answers to all of the questions that me and Mr. Hale possibly thought that could be brought up. And if you request them, I have meeting, I can get meeting minutes from as far back as I can. Just let me know. But I can't guarantee. I've been here for 3 years and I'm doing my best to organize and structure and find a lot of these documents. So
Mr. Jackson,
Mr. Hale, please.
Mr. Gross is correct. I think that the purpose of any workshop would be to discuss ideas primarily. And so I would just encourage the board members to submit their thoughts about those things that are most important to them in reviewing all of this. I don't expect anybody to submit something that looks like it's in any sort of final form or that it looks like it covers everything. I think there are some things that are pretty standard and will just have no problems, and there are some things that require some thinking and discussion. And so work on the ones that require discussion and thinking and concentrate on those would be my suggestion. And I'm sure we'll have plenty to talk about.
we will.
Would people be open to spending a little time tonight on them? I've got suggestions.
You can give them to me and I can review them. And give them to Mr. Hale. If you would like to set, yeah, definitely this is definitely what we look for.
Well, we're all here now. If people have the time, we could actually make copies and look at them tonight, get
Well-
started on it.
Yeah, and you do that without making a notice of a workshop or something like that.
Oh, we didn't do that?
We noticed that it was,
A workshop tonight?
yeah, but I canceled. I noticed that yeah. So we can't, because the agenda's out there, the BZA workshop, rescheduling. But like I said, Mr. Hale, you will already be at a head start, and this will get to Mr. Hale and he'll review yours originally, and then the others as they come in. So
And again, the big thing on that, a lot of them are kind of open questions. It's like, okay, how much time should you give a speaker to speak?
yeah,
And that's something the board needs to discuss.
Yep.
You know, we need to come up with answers to some of these questions before it's really written down in stone.
so, and we can, like I said, if you, the more, sorry, all this reading, the more information we receive, more feedback we receive, we'll get a draft from your feedback that you'll have before the meeting. And then at that time, that'll be going into our first draft. And from that meeting, we'll leave with our second draft. And then, so these conversations are going to be held over the next couple of months until we finalize them. Like I said, April, May is when I'm looking to, try to have them established for all of us so that as we move into developmental season, because hey, yeah, we know how it was last May with 5, 6, 7 petitions all at once. So this time that we have right now, this March, April, those are the months that we don't get as many petitions. So this is the time that we need to kind of start asking those questions and you know, getting these drafts together. So, and like I said, me and Attorney Hale have already, you know, kind of started moving forward with, you know, drafts and things of that nature based upon what existed and what was voted down and X, Y, and Z. So your additions will just, you know, complement those things that we, you know, think will be sufficient for change.
Very good.
And also just be mindful that if you're requesting documentation, give me a little bit of time. Our department is transitioning. I'm also now over historic preservation. So I get to stay with Steve, so I'm pretty okay with that. So.
All right.
I have a question for Mr. Hale, if I could. Now, we voted on this tattoo parlor today. She actually has to go down to the county and record this before she can actually open up that tattoo parlor.
No, she doesn't. She can move forward with the work because she's approved.
She can't get any permits though. That's my question. We voted on it. Can she get her permits, get it registered with the county before we vote on the decisions and findings of facts, or after today's meeting? If you follow what I'm saying.
It has always been the practice of the BZA to permit a petitioner to act on a petition that was granted as of the night of the approval. That's been the practice for as long as I've been attorney for the board.
Okay.
And the state will give her documentation for a zoning use variance, and she'll bring that to me.
And the reason I ask that is the city isn't supposed to issue building permits or anything for these until it's recorded with the county. And if we don't have meetings and don't do the decisions of finding and facts until then, they couldn't do it. But if they do it the night we vote, then we aren't delaying people. That was my concern. We aren't delaying people until we do the decision of findings and facts.
Well, no, we always allow them to, because we are the planning and inspection department. Those approvals come through us, and if we, for some reason, don't have a meeting, we won't hold them from moving forward with the approval, especially since she's not doing any construction. The building department has to go out and do her inspection. The health department will definitely give us a call as long as she's permitted. If there's any profound issue, which I don't perceive with this, because this isn't the first tattoo shop that we did. And last year we didn't do his findings and facts for a while because of the weather. So, but she can move forward. It's always, like Mr. Hale said, it's always been the practice of us to honor the approval at the time of the meeting's end. Mm-hmm.
All right. Ms. Martin, do you have any new business?
Yes. So, I did agree that I would get you guys the copy of the meeting dates, even though you got them mailed out. However, based upon the meeting dates, our November, I know this is far out, but I want to make sure we get it out there and gets on Drew calendar if possible. I think it's available though. If I would like to recommend that we move November meeting to November 16th, which will be that following week. But it will be it's a Monday. Because Tuesday that following week is Plan Commission, I believe, or City Council.
City Council. Yeah.
Yeah, City Council. So, but Monday, the only thing that's technically on Monday is developmental review. And I have those both now. 16th at 6.
Yeah.
If you guys approve, we gotta make a motion.
And that's because it's Veterans Day on the 11th.
Yes.
Okay. So we act,
Board members, is there a motion to change the date?
I motion that we change the November 11th, 2025 meeting date for the Department of BZA. I can't speak.
can I make, have we voted on this before, these dates? Because technically the BZA has to vote on these dates, the entire calendar.
Is that factual, Mr. Attorney Hill?
I think we should vote on them, yes.
Okay.
So adapt the calendar that Dr. Martin has submitted with the change of the November 11th, 2025 meeting to November 16th, 2025 at 6 p.m.
Okay.
Wait.
Hold it.
You're not bad with dates. November 2025?
I would like to make a motion.
Hang on.
See,
It's the 17th.
I know it was a Monday.
Then
The
I,
17th.
then I can let me restate
Good catch.
my motion. Can I restate my motion then? I motion that we accept.
excuse me, just
I'm just motion.
what about April 15th being the third Tuesday
What?
this year? Got your calendar there? Oh.
Yes, it is. The 8th. The 8th of April.
Excuse me, Fred Klinder here. April 15th.
Our next one.
That's the 8th.
We will table it to our
Is that the third
Yes.
Tuesday of the month? Yes, I
Okay.
thought it was.
well, I'll have Debbie resend it out for
Yeah, let's table this for tonight.
yeah, she'll have to review the date.
Yeah, no, her.
Let's look at this at the other meeting, and that way we can verify the rest of these dates too, because somebody's calendar might have been just off a day.
I didn't
Do you have any other new business?
know.
Okay.
September.
No.
September
All right.
meeting with my birthday. September 9th.
Next one's public comment. There is no public here in the conference room. Drew, do you have anything? You good? All right. Nobody's online? All right. And the next is we're looking for a motion for adjournment.
You got it.
I have a motion by Mr. Klinder,
I second it. Deborah
seconded by
Vance.
Ms. Vance. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Nobody's opposed. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.